Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm going to split this up into several little short videos. First, I want to talk about rich shaming, okay? This is one of the things that came up. This is a post-election series of videos. It has to do with a lot of stuff that happened leading up to the election, during the election, and the things we're going to have to contend with after the election cycle. But most of this stuff is not specific to a given election. It's topical. So I was rich shamed on a post recently, on a thread recently. This was on Pluspora. It was public, so Nora, whoever Nora is here, he's or she, they, whatever, is fairly specific about rich shaming for a $90,000 a year salary. The argument was, the economic argument, that people do not pay, or that people, individuals, pay a higher percentage of their income than corporations. Corporations evil, blah, 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 all corporations evil. And no matter how much you show numbers, if someone has bought into that narrative, like Mr. P, if he has bought into that narrative, that is the narrative. No amount of math, reality, objective facts will actually break that cycle, okay? And this is one of the problems that we're having right now because we're dealing with a corporate programmed information landscape, infoscape, right? And the corporations that are programming that are telling you all sorts of stuff, but then they don't have to. They don't have to live with it. Okay, the corporations in question are never going to have to deal with punitive taxation if it happens. If a corporate punitive tax is passed, they will never have to deal with it. The only people that will be small and mid-sized businesses. So bonus for them because they're large corporations and they get to reduce their competition. They also buy largely bipartisan politicians. But there's a certain element here where they're very much more focused on the Democrats and the progressives because that's the intent and the assumption. And this is a broad social assumption, is that eventually we will have a single-party state. We'll get into that in another video, the whole assumption that if more people vote, Democrats can't lose. There's a problem with that sort of populist attitude when your party's not populist. We'll talk about that later. So Nora decided to rich shame me, okay? And the number used was in a $90,000, $98,000 a year annual income, which is, supposedly I picked out of a hat as the definition of middle class or something, and it wasn't. That was just the income level at which you started to pay close to the same tax rate, effective tax rate, as corporations. Basically, corporations actually pay a high effective tax rate. The true taxes paid for corporations is closer to 11% if you look at a specific list of 400 lowest tax-paying corporations put out by leftist corporate media to try to make you angry. And we know that the effective actual taxes paid by the lowest, the lower 50% of the population in the U.S. is 4%, and that to get to that 11%, you have to be making somewhere in the top 30% of income. So the corporate tax thing is a lie, but this idea of rich shaming, this is like a really big deal. This is one of the things where they just pick a number out of a hat. For Nora, it's $90,000. $90,000 a year. This is a person who quite openly advocates for punitive taxation and redistributive wealth, and this is a person who wants a basic journeyman electrician wage with 10 years of experience, electrician, plumber, nurse, someone in a trade union with 10 years of experience makes this much money. It's basic middle class income. $90,000 is not that much money per year now. I mean, Ozzie, Harriet, 1954, whatever. I'm glad that you live in that land. Communist, Nora, whatever. But that's realistically, we're just talking about basic middle class income. It's not top 40% or anything, right? But this is a level, this is above the level, obviously, for which Nora would impose punitive taxation. Now, Joe Biden says 400,000. 400,000 is a nice number because it's high enough that a lot of the voting populace, the masses, the populist masses, don't make that much. So it's something that you can demonize safely because there's no face to it. It's just those evil rich people who make more than $400,000 before expenses. Like this is also gross wages and everything else. It doesn't matter how much they pay in taxes already. It's just you've got a number. You can demonize people. This is called rich shaming. And the point is not how much you make or what you do with what you make or how much you pay in taxes. It's that you have a way to put up people into a class of other and hate them and take their stuff. And this is not exclusive to the left. It is endemic with all authoritarian ideologies. I consider most Republicans to be leftist authoritarians, just that it's not all of them like it is with Democrats. But the idea of using this othering and taking, especially in economic models, this is a very specific tool that is used, a very specific symptom of a disease. And you need to really understand that anyone who does that, anyone who says someone else makes 400,000, therefore they're the rich enemy. What they're doing is they're trying to steal your soul. I'm just going to lay it out there like that, okay? Let's get all superstitious. It's just like taking a picture of someone and stealing their soul. That's basically what's going on here. They want to control you. They're using this idea as a piece of weaponry. And if they can get you to repeat it, they can get you to believe it, they can get you to follow them, they can get you to be part of their cult. Okay? The evil rich must go. The evil bad corporations. And it's really is cult programming. Look at my friend. You can show people the numbers, the actual numbers, okay? The tax cuts from the evil Republicans in 2018 benefited most Americans. Absolutely. Provable math. Objective fact. Now, it's a difficult objective fact because we've started to use the tax return checks as a welfare system. And it's the worst sort of pyramid scheme welfare system because it's your money, right? So if you pay less in taxes and you get a lower return, then all of a sudden the welfare check is gone. And it's really, really bad. Like, it's such a freaking scam. It's amazing. But, it's undeniable that the majority of Americans in all tax brackets, the lowest paying Americans, middle Americans, benefited from the tax cuts. It's also undeniable that corporations benefited. But what happened is that while the corporations benefited, the number of jobs and the amount of money going through the economy skyrocketed, okay? Sustainably. Like, it wasn't a bubble. It was, and that's one of the things, is that people kept telling you that there was a recession. It was horrible. It was awful because the growth was slowing. The growth was slow. The growth was slow. Slow and steady wins the race, man. And that was a very sustainable, steady. And we even have managed somehow to not completely implode with the coronavirus idiocy of people like Steve Sisolak and Gretchen Whitmer and Rahm Emanuel and that idiot Newsom, yeah. The global warming is why fires exist, dude, in California. I swear, like, I keep thinking it's Jerry Brown, but it's, dude. Anyway, the point here is that they're using, they use this cult programming, okay? Rich shaming is part of the cult programming. And you can come up and you can prove to people with math that they even agree with that something did not happen, and they will still have the religious, quasi-religious, the cult attitude that Republicans are only pro-corporate and hate little people and small business and whatever, right? And it all revolves, you can almost always identify cult programming by the negative or the punitive aspects, okay? The fact that you deregulate and it allows a small business to exist theoretically is bad because it doesn't punish a large company. See, that's the thing. The large company makes use of the deregulation. Of course it does. If you want to regulate the large company, you have to target your regulations. Okay. And this is protective, environmental regulations, that kind of thing. Not a punitive regulation, but the more restrictive you make it, the more it hurts smaller people. And when you get rid of it, and the argument is that you're not punishing the evil big others, you know there's a cult. And that's what it is. It's cult programming. So I have been rich shamed leading up to the election as part of an election tactic. Anyone who talks to you in these terms, okay, that this is too much money, you make too much money, someone else makes too much money, or you've identified a tax bracket and that's just, well, why did you use that as an example? That's just a really high amount of money. That kind of thing. Watch out for it, because it's anti-human bullshit. Stay sideways and stay tuned.